After another dominant performance by Garrett Crochet, the White Sox should not trade him. They need to extend him and build their next competitive rotation around him. I'll discuss why next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at SouthsideShowdown.com. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the White Sox nearly got swept by the Seattle Mariners as once again, the Sox bullpen blew a late lead. Thankfully, the Sox got the Manfred runner across in the 10th, and the bullpen was able to protect that slim 3-2 lead in the bottom frame to snap a 4-game losing streak and avoid getting swept by the Mariners. And that is the Sox' fourth win over their past 26 games. During this terrible stretch, the White Sox set a franchise record for the longest losing streak. It was Garrett Crochet's dominance on the mound against Boston that finally snapped that 14-game skid. He was brilliant once again. The former reliever has been an absolute stud for the Sox as a starter. With the team's terrible fortunes, he has been the subject of trade rumors. After last night's 13 strikeout, 1-run performance, and it being great enough to snap another losing streak, you just cannot trade Crochet, and I'll discuss why in the first segment. Michael Kopech, on the other hand, he blew a 2-1 lead in the 9th, just like he did on Monday when he failed to protect a 4-1 lead in the 8th. I'll discuss why it is time for the Sox to move on from him in the second segment. And finally, I'll wrap up with the keys / storylines to watch for when the Sox take on the Arizona Diamondbacks this weekend. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Garrett Crochet was outstanding for the White Sox last night. He set a new career high in strikeouts. He made just one mistake, gave up a home run to Tyler Locklear on the only changeup he threw. He had a bunch of swing and misses last night and just absolutely dominated the Mariners. Most importantly, it helped the Sox beat the Mariners in a series where the Sox outplayed Seattle, only to lose the first 3 games because either the offense could not score enough runs to bury them, and the bullpen could not protect the lead or keep the game tied. I think I misspoke yesterday when I said the Sox had leads in like 8 of their last 9 games. I forgot. On Wednesday, it was a tie game. The Sox never led. My bad. But once again, the Sox offense did the bare minimum in scoring runs. Andrew Vaughn and Luis Robert Jr., they crushed back-to-back solo shots in the 3rd. It's a beautiful sight to see. But, and then also, I like to go over who is good in the series after every series is over. Well, those two, and I already discussed how good Eric Fetty, Drew Thorpe, and Jonathan Cannon were on the mound in previous shows. That's about it. 5 guys were really good. Plus Garrett Crochet. He was amazing. And that is why I want to focus in on Crochet standing with the team long-term instead. I discussed on last Wednesday's show about ESPN's Jeff Passan's report that the front office is open to trading Crochet. And I understand that there should be no sacred cows on a team this bad. I really do. I get it. It makes sense. But, as I stated then, and it has been further cemented now, Garrett, General Manager Chris Getz simply should not trade Crochet. Said it on Wednesday, and again, I am now put me in the I will die on that hill category that he should not trade Garrett Crochet. The absolute only exception I will make is Getz gets an offer that brings him back a time machine where he can go back in time, grab prime Pedro Martinez, Doc Gooden, and Greg Maddux to join the White Sox. That's it. Otherwise, I'm not interested. I'll make one more exception to where I'll get off the hill, is if Crochet just hired Scott Boras. Then yes, fine, because you know you're not getting him signed to an extension. But he is a building block, not a trade chip. Aces are hard to find. They're even harder to develop, and the Sox just accomplished both. You got a guy who can throw some serious heat on all of his pitches, and he commands them. He's got that rare combo of velocity and stuff. You hear managers talk about that all the time. You either need to have velocity or stuff. He's got it both. And yes, I'm declaring I'm a die on that hill. Do not trade Crochet. I am aware of the pros of trading him. Fully aware. I get the points. You do not know. I mean, the first pro of trading Crochet is you do not know when the Sox will be good again. And he's only under team control for 2 more seasons. And like I said, I can understand that he might just wake up and say, you know what? I want big money. I'm hiring Scott Boras, for example. And for the team trading for him, having him for 2.5 years is appealing. Because not only do you have him for 2.5 years, but you get him for 2 trade deadlines as well. And 2 off seasons. But I just don't think Getz is going to get full value for Crochet if he trades him right now before the deadline. First reason is Crochet, this is his first year as a starter. He is on an innings limit. You know, the Sox have made it abundantly clear. Pedro Grifol has talked about it. You know, they're talking about maybe he might pitch no more than like 4 innings in August and September in terms of like his outings. And he threw, like, think about this too. He threw 100 pitches for just the second time in his career, and he went 7 innings for the second time as well. And the only reason why he threw 7 innings in his second ever start against the Braves was he was just so darn efficient. And oh yeah, the White Sox won that game too. They beat the Atlanta Braves during that 3-22 start. I mean, he's been so good that you can actually feel confident that the Sox are going to win when he throws. And in an 18-52 season, it's not very often you get to say, hey, the Sox have a chance at winning. His whip is down to .0895. He is a 2.3 F4 player on a team that has just 2 other players with an F4 over .9. I don't want to get rid of that type of player. His ERA is now down to 3.33. His FIP is 2.77. And on a team that is issuing free passes like crazy, his walk percentage is just 5.7% to a K percentage of 34. This guy's fastball averages 96.8 when he knows he can throw 100. So you can tell he's understanding how to pitch and not throw. And think about it. His cutter is averaging 91.1 miles per hour, slider at 84. His changeup is at 90.7. And that's just insane out there. That's a cheat code, a true gate attraction, and he's only 24 years old. And Crochet said after the game, the Sox have not even approached him about an extension. Now, don't be worried. Chicago Sun-Times beat reporter Daryl Van Schouwen did point out in his write-up, he's only been a starter for 2 months. I don't think the Sox envision him being this good. But if you don't envision him being this good, you basically have lucked into an ace on a pitcher you drafted just based on velocity alone. So to me, take the gamble, pony up the money, sign him through age 29, because I want to give him like maybe a 4-year extension, and I'm going to build my rotation around him. And I understand the pro that, hey, the Sox have plenty of young, promising pitching prospects. And I get it. That's one of the reasons why you might want to move Crochet. But it is unknown how many of them will turn out to be a frontline pitcher and how many will continue to progress or stay healthy. 25 years ago, the Sox had a bunch of young arms, and only Mark Burley and John Garland ended up staying in the rotation long term. Jim Parquet and Michael Soroka, they were never heard of again after 2000 because of injuries. John Roche, he had to go on to be a closer with the Twins and the Nationals. Now I'm hoping, like hope, that that doesn't happen this go around. And honestly, the Sox have way more younger pitching options than they did 25 years ago. But Crochet is your Burley with velocity for your next good team. Drew Thorpe has the promise to be exactly like Burley, so build that rotation around those two to turn things around. Now, there is one pitcher that the White Sox need to give up on, and that is Michael Kopech. I will discuss why it is time to pull the plug on his tenure with the White Sox next on Locked On White Sox. Here on Locked On White Sox, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year round. You know what else is year round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. Come to think of it, I have some 1099 income coming my way this year. I still have to figure out this quarterly filing thing along with filing jointly. I keep talking about it. I do have to give them a call to help me out, I think. With over 14 years of experience and an A-plus rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or you finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000. That's 1-800-549-1000, or visit tnusa.com/locked-on. See the link in this episode description below. Hey, and are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox start a 3-game road series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. First pitch is at 8:40 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. And thank you for making the show your first listen. Lots of great White Sox podcasts out there, like the CHGO podcast, which I will have Herb Lawrence on the show next week. Herb's going to make a return to the Locked On Sox. He hosted this show a couple of years ago. But, I just ask, check out those shows, but make sure you listen to me here first. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. And the Sox had an opportunity to avoid extra innings last night, but Michael Kopech blew the save when he gave up a solo blast to Julio Rodriguez with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. Second time this series, Kopech pitched in a high-leverage situation and failed to protect the lead. And failing to protect leads or keep the game tied has been his specialty lately. He gave up the walk-off home run to Mike Tauchman against the Cubs last week. Willie Adames had that walk-off hit on June 1st off of Kopech in extra innings, and he failed to protect a 3-2 lead on May 25th against the Orioles. Kopech is declining at a rapid pace out of the bullpen. He failed as a starter, and now it looks like he's failing as a closer. It is time to end his Sox tenure as soon as possible. And the problem is not his stuff. He can fire a fastball in with the best of them. The problem is between his ears. For those not watching on YouTube, I pointed between my ears. Now, he has a it's well documented he has struggles with mental health issues. And I appreciate his honesty on that. And I'm not saying that is the issue. Not saying like whatever, mental health issues he's having or has had is causing this. The issue with what is going on in his mind is it's clear. He just wants to throw the ball as hard as he can And hitters know that. It's like every pitch he just wants to prove that he can throw 100, 101, 102. So they're just waiting him out. I mean, he is throwing his four-seam fastball this year at a career high 79.3% of the time. And this is a guy who can also throw a cutter, a slider, a curve, and a change. At least that's according to Fangraphs. And according to Fangraphs, he added a cutter this year, but he's only throwing it at 9.9% of the time. 9.9%. And his slider at 10.8. So he's completely ditched the curve and the change. But this lack of throwing a secondary pitch, that's what's getting him into trouble. White Sox TV analyst Steve Stone, the great Steve Stone, he was on The Score yesterday. And to sum it up in terms of my takeaway from what he said, he pretty much pointed out that Kopech needs to be rebooted. He needs a complete Control-Alt-Delete. He needs to understand that you just cannot throw harder and harder. You need to pitch. As Stoney said, you got to get outs. And right now, he's just trying to light up the radar gun. And it's impressive sometimes to see him. I'll admit, every time he throws the ball and it hits 101, you're like, whoo. But as Stoney was saying, he needs to understand you got to take a few miles per hour off on that fastball with the same delivery to keep the hitter from picking up the ball, because that's what's happening. Yes, 100 miles an hour lessens the one Mississippi to one Mississippi, takes out the PPI. Learned that from a documentary that I watched. That's why velocity is so huge right now, is it lowers that one Mississippi by like now to, basically 1 second to 0.8. But still, professionals hitters can find a way to time that up. That's why they're professional hitters. And he can make that fastball dance, but if it's just pure speed, they're going to time it up and they're going to crush it. And that's what's happening. So you got to throw off the timing by sometimes throwing it at 98, 97, even 96. It's not exactly a changeup. You're still throwing the four-seamer, but maybe you're not being like, you want me to throw this ball as hard as I can? I'll do it. And throw that secondary pitch more. I love how on Bernstein and Holmes, they always say, like, he's Cornholio out there. He just gets so hyper. It's like, relax, man. And he won't do it. He won't. It's like he just wants to keep throwing that fastball as hard as he can. And the Sox can't keep waiting for him to turn into a dominant closer, because that's what they're valuing him at right now. He needs a change of scenery. The Sox, what they need to do from here is find situations where he can shine so they can showcase him for the trade market. And he still has trade value even right now. I believe the reports are 17, I think it was 670 Scores. Bruce Levine said 7 teams are probably, I believe it was Bruce Levine reported. And if I'm wrong, my apologies, but they were saying like at least 7 teams are interested in him. And why not? He's still 28 with another year of team control. And he still has value because you can throw it 100. As long as you can throw hard, a team's going to find a way to get you on their, on their roster. They're going to take flyers on you. But if he keeps blowing leads, the return is going to keep being diminished. And, I believe that a team will think that they can salvage him, especially if you can get him on a team that has a good pitch lab and just gets him a new voice to convince him. You don't need to throw 101 every time. Throw 97 with some movement and command. And hey, maybe he can still be salvaged as a starter for next year. Look at Ronaldo Lopez. He's doing amazing for the Braves. But it's just not working out on the South Side. Sometimes you just got to admit this isn't a match. And especially, I've covered guys before that it's in their head. And it does not work out with the original team. They got to go somewhere else. Well, the Sox road trip continues as they head to Phoenix to face the Arizona Diamondbacks for a 3-game set. Let's discuss that upcoming series next on Locked On White Sox. One regret I have is I never went to any of the NBA Finals games a couple years back when the Bucks won the title. Never went during the 90s when the Bulls won those championships. Hey, Boston is closing in on a title, so time is running out on the chance to catch an NBA Finals game. And don't live with regret. If you're like me, how do I, if you're thinking like, Todd, how do I get tickets last minute to such a prime event? Game Time. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. And maybe a last minute trip to Dallas is not in the books. Okay, we'll still use Game Time for your ticket needs to other events because of their last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know, am I getting a good seat? Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEG for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And the White Sox start a 3-game road series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. First pitch is at 8:40 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with the Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. Thank you for sticking with me this long. Especially shout out to my everydayers. You guys might be noticing if you're watching on YouTube, hey, you made a change. Yep, I redid my setup. Found a desk, second desk to use. Wanted to have a little bit more space. The elephant, though, the puzzle that my daughter put together, like when she was 3, and we glued it. And for the guy that said on YouTube, what is those two elephants doing? It's a mommy elephant and a kid elephant showing affection. Come on. But yeah, I redecorated. And also shout out to the people that sent me some really nice feedback about how, I kind of railed on the trolls that said I sip my coffee too much and I take too many breaks. Really appreciate those comments, guys. Made me feel great. Hopefully, I'm helping you get through this terrible, no good, awful season. We'll get through it together. But I am going to stick to drinking water for right now, as I also realize, you know what? I got to drink more water. They say, what, you got to drink 8-ounce glasses of water a day. So probably going to drink water in the morning. I'll still maybe bring my coffee on every now and again. Anyways, the Sox are sort of trying to replicate the Diamondbacks with some of the front office hires Chris Guest made last summer. Assistant GM Josh Barfield, he was with the Diamondbacks prior to coming to the South Side. He was the director of player development, and hey, the Diamondbacks got to the World Series in part by developing young talent such as Corbin Carroll. And that is the team that the Sox are playing this weekend. So it'll be interesting measuring stick to see where the Sox at as an organization compared to the Diamondbacks, or at least see, hey, this is maybe the vision. Although right now Arizona is 33-36, despite coming off a year where they made a magical run to the World Series last year. They're 6-4 over their past 10 games and 17-17 at home. They're coming off taking 2 of 3 from the Angels, and they trounced them 11-1 in the series finale. So, if they have an easy time with a terrible team like the Angels, just imagine what they'll do to the White Sox. Hopefully, though, the Sox can continue to play well like they did in Seattle, except for just hold on to the lead, maybe. The Diamondbacks feature a top 10 offense and team average, on-base percentage, runs, hits, and OPS. They are 15th in home runs, so they get more of those runs based on getting on base, running the base as well, than just straight up crushing the ball. Corbin Carroll is off to a slow start, but he is heating up as his slash line is 304, 429, 435 over the past 7 games. So hopefully the Sox pitching can cool him off and send him back to struggling, because if he gets going, that's going to make it even tougher for the White Sox. Ketel Marte is also on a heater too, as he is statistically their best hitter among qualified batters. Pitching-wise, though, the D-backs rotation has been hit by injuries, as their pocket aces, Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen, they've been on the injured list, and that has hurt them overall, as Arizona is 26th in team ERA at 4.58. Fielding-wise, though, this is the best defense in baseball in terms of fielding percentage. So, again, you're starting to see that influence. Arizona really is defensive focused, getting guys on base. Kind of see that's kind of the vision the White Sox had in the offseason, getting better defensively. Although the only difference is yes, I'd like to see the White Sox get on base and run the bases better, but you play in a more homer-friendly ballpark. Crush the ball over the fence. So maybe do those three things when you're constructing the roster. The key storylines or things to watch for during the series is first, how does Drew Thorpe do in his second career start that he'll make on Sunday? Had a very solid debut against Seattle, but Nick Nastrini and Jonathan Cannon both had solid debuts and then got rocked in their second career starts. So Thorpe needs to avoid the same fate. The book is now on him. They've got some tape. Can he avoid getting absolutely crushed? Andrew Vaughn, he's been on a tear the past 7 days. 321 average with a 1.023 OPS over the past 7 days with 3 dingers. Can he keep this going? So that's going to help the offense tremendously. Also, hitting with runners in scoring position. The Sox were terrible at that in the Seattle series. The pitching was outstanding. Get some runs across. Get some hits with guys on base. Luis Robert Jr. has a 9.04 OPS over the past 7 games, but a 158 average in that time. So he's crushing the ball, but can he also crush the ball and then get some regular hits? He's a free swinger out there, so walks aren't really going to be his thing. You want him to crush maybe not only some home runs, they're nice, but also let's crush some doubles here. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. But before I go, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Having to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'll be back on Monday to discuss the Sox 3-game set with the Diamondbacks and a minor league Monday report. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page at Locked On White Sox or follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to leave comments about today's show regarding not trading Garrett Crochet, but needing to get rid of Michael Kopech. And you can leave them on YouTube. Also, you can leave comments on X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dub or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. I will see you Monday.